I'm Ashley Chancellor.
I'm Dakota Chancellor.
This is Collateral Gaming. Welcome to Collateral Gaming, the only video game podcast that matters, where we focus on good games, bad games, and everything else in between in the world of gaming. We are podcasting straight from San Antonio, Texas, and yes, my friends, we are a 420 friendly podcast, so whatever you have, be it blunts, be it bongs, be it joints, be it dabs, etc., smoke it if you've got it. For our fellow American audiences, we hope you had a happy Thanksgiving. Hopefully got to spend time with some family or doing something you enjoy. Hopefully you got off work, and if not, we hope you enjoyed your day just as well. And for our non-American audiences, we hope you had a good day as well. Honestly, this isn't really a holiday-themed episode. I just kind of saw it as an opportunity to talk about an indie game that we really enjoy. That's kind of set not so much with the theme of thankfulness or anything, but the actual, theme of Puritans of the Salem Witch Trials, like the Crucible. That is Town of Salem. Town of Salem is a Mafia-style browser game. There are also some other facets, anachronistic and otherwise, like, the Mafia and other roles. But it's primarily set in that kind of a world, in that kind of a setting, even taking, character names from the Crucible.
Yeah, if you don't choose a name starting a game, you'll get a name.
Yeah.
Like a Crucible name, John Hawthorne, Abigail Reeves, Cotton Mather, things like that.
You just said Abigail Reeves.
Did I really?
Yes.
That's hilarious.
What was the name? Reeves. It was Reeves, wasn't it?
No.
One of the names is Reeves.
That's an actual person that you know.
I know it is, but one of the names is Reeves on there.
No, it's not. It's from the Crucible.
No, I remember. Oh, Abigail.
Yes, it's Abigail.
Well, what was the name on there, though?
Oh
I'm so
my
stoned, dude.
god.
I'm sorry. What was the name then? It's Abigail something.
Damn it.
Abigail Williams.
Williams. No, that wasn't the name they used in there. They used.
What?
Did they use Proctor?
No, that's John Proctor's name. You know what? Why are we talking about the Crucible? Clearly, you did not read it or watch the movie.
Jesus
the game.
Christ.
I put the game.
This is incredible,
I didn't mean to
guys.
say anything stupid. I just. Go ahead.
All right. Anyway, why don't you tell us a little bit about the gameplay of Town of Salem?
Like you said, it's a browser-based game. So it's pretty simple. When you log in, you're able to create parties and join with other people. But you'll have a variety of roles you're given. There's town roles, mafia roles. There's the serial killer. There is also neutral roles like executioner and jester. Jester being, trying to get yourself lynched, which is, of course, another thing in the game. You want to lynch people. If you're your town, you're wanting to try to lynch the mafia. Mafia is trying to lynch everybody else because they're trying to kill everybody else too. So it's just a big lynching game. It's like Town of Salem. Salem Witch Trials, same premise.
Yeah, definitely the mass hysteria, as seen in movies like or books like The Crucible or The Scarlet Letter, very much sets the tone of this game. Kind of this wild goose chase because there's if anybody knows about Mafia or Werewolf, I mean the premise is that everyone has a role and people are secretly part of those factions. In this case, we have the town, we have the Mafia, and we have some other neutral roles that are, setting their own, serving their own needs. But mainly, you have those two factions, but nobody knows who's who. And during the day, you have the ability to, like Dakota said, lynch each other. So mainly, this is done in the name of the town because that's the highest volume faction in the game. In the name of lynching the evildoers, like the Mafia and the serial killer. However, since some of those present are the Mafia and the serial killer, definitely there's some misdirection thrown in. And even if you are town, oftentimes you don't want to give away what role you are and why you know the information that you know.
Right. The entire game is like, guilty until proven innocent. That this really is. Everybody is, because you don't know their role unless, an investigative role was able to confirm but even at that point, only that person knows, because they don't want to give away their role, because they could easily get killed by the Mafia or the serial killer the next night. But that's also an opportunity to watch over them. So it's like you never know what you want to do. You never know if you want to let out your role, especially if you have protective roles that are dead already. That's going to be able to save you.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think the major premise with this game is that it challenges players' ability to lie and to see through deception. And I really think that makes for interesting layered gameplay. There's always reverse psychology on top of reverse psychology,
Yeah, it's whoever has the best poker face. There's so many things going along in this game that you have to lie, you have to tell the truth. You don't know if someone's telling the truth. There's another character who's just trying to get themselves lynched the whole time, so they're going to claim anything.
Right.
It doesn't matter. You never know what someone's going to be until it's confirmed. And so it's whoever you trust. If you happen to be next to people, that's kind of an advantage if you're playing, with other people next to them. But I don't think that's encouraged. I think it's more of like the whole, keep it private, which we do. We don't usually sell our roles unless we all figure out we're town. And then at that point, it doesn't really matter. But
right. Yeah. When we play together, we do try to keep our roles and identities a secret, just so that we don't actually like cheat.
Right. Especially if one of us is dead.
Right. But there's a certain point where we've all figured shit out.
Yeah, we'll figure it out until we figured out each other's roles. And it's like, if we're all town, it doesn't matter at that point.
Then we'll freely, talk to each other and what kind of information we found.
I'm waiting for the day we're all three Mafia.
But yeah, if we're opposing factions, then yeah, there's no help. But it's definitely a very fun game. It's very intellectual and complicated, and really, I mean, I know some people that have watched playthroughs for this and are actually kind of scared to play because of just how much thinking you have to do, how much work.
Right. There's a lot of strategy. It's all strategy. You got to learn what roles do, what everything does, what you're going to get whenever, it's important to learn like an investigative roles. An investigator, you're going to get one of 3 roles or sometimes 2, of what they could be.
Right. So essentially, with each role, you, in addition to being able to lynch people during the day, you also have the ability to perform certain actions at night. And each player has a given ability. What Dakota's referencing is that the investigator can specifically target one person in the game and get a choice of 3 options of what their role may be. There's another role, the sheriff, which can tell you if they're a good or a bad player.
Suspicious or not suspicious.
Is specifically the wording. The Mafia themselves have certain abilities. As in, together they're able to kill someone every night. The serial killer is able to kill someone every night. And then there's even other Mafia roles that are, intended to deceive the town. And then there's even other town roles that help support the town, or even a couple town roles that, allow you to kill.
Yeah, vigilante can kill anybody at any time, but if they kill a town, they die from guilt the next day.
Yeah, and jailer can jail anyone
Yes.
and execute them.
They do not have that, however, that handicap of guilty the next day. However, they fucked over the town if they kill the town member.
Right. But, obviously they get the chance to confirm by questioning their suspect whether or not they can, in order to kill them. So if you're playing with good players, you'll definitely have a good experience. Every once in a while, you will play with, it's randomized. So you'll play with dumb people who don't catch on to your hints, or who don't work with you, or who make stupid decisions and decide to randomly lynch people.
Yeah. That's the bonus of playing more ranked games. But the downside of that is that it's actually different roles, really. You have more roles, and there's more randomization.
Yeah. With the ranked games, you throw out a lot of the new players and inexperienced players because there's a requirement in order to play ranked games. I haven't met that requirement yet, actually. Um,
You have to play 50 games and get like
and 10 of those have to be ranked practice.
10 have to be practice. Yeah.
But more so than the the particulars of this, I really enjoy the just the gameplay, the idea of deception within deception. And what's really interesting with that is, when you are an evil role and you're trying to mislead the town into lynching the wrong person, and that moment of satisfaction when you do, or if you're the character, the jester, that's trying to get himself lynched, by making people think that you're evil, but not being so obvious that people know that you're jester.
Right. It's all deception. It's a poker face. Jester, I mean, it's just that.
And that's a really interesting role to play, because everyone's accustomed to the reverse psychology of the jester, which is, oh yeah, hang me, I'm bad. But that's too obvious. We know that's a fucking jester.
But
So-
even reverse psychology, where you try to do the opposite of just being quiet or just playing it safe, that won't get you killed. You have to ease yourself in there.
Yeah.
And you have to say things that are suspicious, but more like your Mafia or SK.
you have to get people to like catch you in a lie.
Catch you in a lie,
that
but
you set up.
that you did set up. You have to preset that up, because you're not
Yeah.
going to get hung first day if you say hang me.
Right. It's a very interesting role. And then even the town, balancing between helping each other out, which you want to do, and preventing, more town from getting killed at night, and getting the appropriate members of the other faction lynched, which will allow you to win the game. You still want to hide your own role, because if you have a particular valuable ability, you'll be targeted.
Yeah. I guess we should have said with Jester as well, is that actually when you do get lynched, at that point, then by the next game, during the night, you can choose someone that voted guilty of your death, which is part of the lynching process. If you decide to lynch someone, you vote them guilty or innocent.
So it's a two-step process.
Yeah,
A majority of the town, or a certain number of the town, have to vote up.
Right.
It's not a majority, actually. It's a certain number of the town have to vote a member on trial, right? And then, out of all players present, not just the ones that voted, the majority of players that vote have to vote guilty.
Right, yeah. And it has to be a majority. If it's a tie, they'll vote it innocent. There's also abstaining as well, which at that point is just not voting either way. And if you do that, that's not going to affect the vote any. But if you are a jester, which I was trying to explain, they can kill people the next day. Anybody who voted guilty or abstained.
Right.
So you have to vote innocent if you don't believe the jester is evil. And if you vote innocent, you're safe. You're invulnerable to attack. But if you did vote guilty, you can kill anybody, whether it's an executioner even.
And you have to be careful, too, because if you vote innocent against a role that's actually evil, suspicion will be cast on you.
Yeah.
Mafia know each other's roles and know that each other are part of Mafia.
They have their own chat at night, which they're one of the only roles besides medium that can talk at night. Which
Right.
they can converse with each other. Jailer can talk with their person, and that person obviously can talk back to Jailer. And then medium can talk to the dead.
Right, the medium. The role that everybody hates, but if you play it well, you can actually
You'll
help.
get a lot of game hoppers who leave because they're medium. What is
Yeah.
it? The medium curse. They usually die first night. That's the
Yeah,
medium curse.
they're not useful. But they can still seance, so technically that's not true.
Yeah, but if they're useless, no one dies the first night. Therefore, they can't. There's no need to seance. I guess at that point,
They
well,
can
yeah,
continue
that's
to
right.
converse with the dead.
That's true. The dead people. Okay, fair enough.
I've definitely thrown a game in my favor after a seance.
Seances are important. They can be.
And even then, we think it's useless, but being able to converse with the dead allows you, someone that does know, because they targeted an evil player and got killed, will be able to tell the medium.
Right. There's specific roles, like, for instance, jailer, like we mentioned. You can jail someone at 9. If you jail the serial killer and you do not end up killing them and executing them, they kill you. Same thing with escort. If you are an escort and you try to roadblock them, then they will kill, the serial killer will kill them.
Right.
In favor. So if you are the escort or you are the jailer and you died, it'll tell you were killed by the serial killer you jailed, or you were killed by the serial killer that you roadblocked, that you escorted. And so that you can tell the dead, and the dead can then relay that seance to someone they know as a town member. But that's another part of it. They have to know that they're talking to a town member, not a, so everybody has to know each other's roles. The dead can see the live chat role, the live chat, but the live people can't see the dead people chat.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Having these different conversations, and the roles get even more complicated and different, game modes. Like, for instance, we mentioned ranked, which randomizes it a lot more. And then there's the Coven expansion, which adds entire new factions, like the Coven, which is like witches. Honestly, I'm still trying to kind of learn my way around Classic and get in tune with each role and know, okay, what if I'm this role and I don't want to give it out? What roles can I claim? What's the best way to play this particular role? So, I haven't wanted to move on to the new roles yet because I still want to learn these intimately.
I feel you. I've played this game for many years. My sister showed this to me a long time ago.
Yeah, both of us.
Yeah, and we played it, but I guess you didn't really stay in touch with it as much as I did.
I didn't, but I got back into it now.
Yeah.
And I got my wife into it. She's actually sitting in this room, Lillian. I wanted to have her on the podcast, but we won't do that tonight. But she's here listening in. She's actually playing Town of Salem right now as we speak.
She is the doctor.
Yeah, there you go.
See, doctor can heal people at night, or if they decide, they can have one self-heal at a night. So if they're being targeted and they're pretty sure they're going to die because the Mafia know that they're doctor because they claimed it already, then they can self-heal themselves and hopefully prevent themselves from being attacked. But they can only do that once, and if you use it and it doesn't work, you don't get to use it again.
Yeah. There's certain roles that there's a limited number of uses. And even the context of the game, the entire thing is timed. You have a cycle of day and night, and those only last a certain amount of time. And, within the day, there's only a certain amount of time that you have for discussion and then for voting.
So this is another theme of haste. This entire game, you have to get through it quickly and use your head quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Quick on your feet.
A seemingly innocent town. Turns deadly at night. Find and lynch the murderers before you die. And avoid the gallows. Can you survive the town of Salem?
It's difficult to toe the line between protecting your role, or in some cases protecting your faction, and helping the other members out. Which Mafia, obviously, again, they have that advantage of being able to speak to each other at night. But Town, while they outnumber the other factions, definitely don't have the advantages.
Mainly because they don't know who each other are, and the Mafia do know who each other are.
Right.
And so they can work together, whereas the Town can't because they have to figure out their roles elsewhere,
Right.
during the day. That's if someone claims their role, which most people aren't going to do, especially, beginning of the game when all the Town's still alive.
And neither one of them knows who the serial killer is, who's a neutral role
Yeah.
that's trying to kill everybody and be the last person standing.
Which is a very interesting role. It's a very difficult role to play. I will say that, but it can be easy if you do it right. There are strategies. Again, every role has strategies to play to win. And
there are certain roles that are, for instance, invulnerable. Like the Mafia and the serial killer. Executioner. So the serial killer is invulnerable, and
the Godfather is invulnerable.
The Godfather, right?
Yeah,
to the serial killer.
But I think the serial killer gets to kill the Godfather, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong there.
The serial killer automatically wins.
That's what it is, right? The serial killer automatically wins.
If it's just Mafia and the SK wins.
That's what it is. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Because it's going to end up in a tie because the Mafia and the Godfather can't kill each other.
See how layered this discussion is? And I really didn't want to have to, get too technical with this because I want a lot of people who haven't played the game to be able to kind of keep up with what we're talking about. But even just talking about this game puts you back into the technicality of it.
It does. You can't not talk about strategy because that's all it is.
So, honestly, I think, everyone should try this out. It's free. So you can just go to BlankMediaGames.com. You can download the app. I think it's $5 on Steam.
Yeah, this was originally funded completely off of Kickstarter.
Yeah, that's true.
Which is really cool because this was I remember the beginning stages of this game. It was just a web, browser game, and that was all it was. And I remember the talk of it being talked into putting it into an app on the phone and, eventually into Steam and a bunch of things. And now they're there and they've got the money for that. And it's cool to see the crowdsource funding.
And it's cross-platform.
It is.
Everybody plays with each other, which is really nice because we can form a party even with some of us being on the computer and some of us being on our phones.
Most games nowadays do not have that ability. Very few to this day, even big games, Apex Legends, popular games on the PS4. I mean, none of that has crossplay. Fortnite is, but I mean that's like one of the only ones.
Yeah, it's interesting how many multiplayer games are not cross-platform in the multiplayer component.
That definitely, puts this kind of game ahead of the game,
Yeah, and it's definitely one of the more interesting, independent games that I've seen, because I think a lot of people are aware of the premise, as far as Mafia-style games go. But this one's definitely unique. I think it's very wacky, and there's definitely, like I said, it's very layered. There's a lot of different roles, and there's a lot of different things that you have to think about, when trying to, deceive other people. Because ultimately, a lot of this game relies on deception. It really reminds me of during the Chunin exams arc in Naruto, when they take the written exam, the first exam, and the entire purpose of the exam, which isn't immediately laid out, is that it's intended for you to be able to cheat and to get away with it. That's what the ultimate purpose is, but they don't outright tell that to the students. You have to kind of figure it out that that's the ultimate goal is to cheat and get away with it. So, this game kind of, in a way, presents itself that way because, you play a few rounds of the game and you realize the ultimate goal is to be able to deceive people, even if you're town, because you want to deceive the mafia. You want to be able to hide your status as a valuable role until late game when you can finally, reveal crucial information that gets somebody lynched. And then you have roles to protect you when you do protect yourself. But what I really hate was in the very beginning of a game when someone's like, hey, I'm such and such, look out on me.
I know.
I hate that shit.
LO on me. I hate that. I see that all the time.
Or dock on me.
Yeah, no, I hate it. Because they do that because they just want to... They're not going to get targeted after they say that. And even if, the doc's not going to be any help, so it's like they're wasting a heal.
And then the next time, they know, or the mafia knows already and can, take advantage of that. They can't keep the lookout on them or the dock on them the whole game.
Yeah, eventually they'll not look at them, and they'll know that, and they'll be forgotten about.
So it's very selfish when people do that. But at the same time, some people say that in order to deceive other people.
Right.
I think on purpose.
That's another Jester move, too.
Yeah, it is. And so, definitely there's that layer again. But it still annoys me when I see it, just in case they are genuine. Like, no, use that for when later on in the game when you have to reveal yourself in order to, give the town crucial information. And that way, you have protection at least for a night until, they can lynch more evildoers.
There is one random town role, which allows you to have just that one random town. And so that does deceive the game a little more because there are people who can claim having the same role and it be true, but it can also be false. And that's another move that the Mafia or the Jest or a lot of people, other serial killer, will try to do. But that allows for variation of a few more roles. I believe Spy and Transporter and Mayor are all added. I've been Mayor before. Mayor's a lot of fun. That allows you to actually reveal your role, so the whole everybody knows you're mayor, and it's confirmed because when you press that button, it says, "Hey, this person is mayor," and it allows you to have like 3 times the amount of voting power. So anytime you vote someone up, you have 3 votes. So literally, if it's mayor against a Godfather against the game, the mayor wins because they can lynch them by just voting once. Because remember, all they need is 2 votes.
But they will die as soon as they reveal themselves as mayor.
Not always. There's lookouts. That's the point when you would use a lookout or a dock on them. When they reveal, you keep an eye on them. You don't let them out of your sight,
Yeah, this is true. But, that specifically applies to Classic, what Dakota's talking about, because in all other game roles, all the rules are more randomized. I mean, you have a certain number of each, I think, but only in Classic, which is, I guess, kind of why we play it, because there's definitely a known element to it, knowing what roles are in the game and who... what role you can or can't claim.
To be honest, I still think Classic is the most played game mode, even over Ranked or Ranked Practice. I honestly do. Yeah, I think it trumps every single other one. I wish it would show a player count, like the amount of players that... Oh, it does. Actually, when you start the game, let's go look. We'll have to look when we start up. It'll tell you the amount of players that are playing on that Classic server.
Okay. I'll take a look into it because I definitely prefer Classic, I think, because there's that element that you can figure out which roles are taken. So it's much less random. but like you said, even then there is just one extra random roll that the evildoers can use to their advantage.
Mm-hmm. It's a throw you off roll. It's kind of necessary, especially in the classic mode, because it would be a little too easy because everyone would know everybody's role.
Yeah.
And there would be no ambiguity as to, hey, you're claiming another role that was somebody else's. You have to be able to claim something else. And so that random town really adds to that. And you don't know until you see a death and there's two of the same name.
Right. With that extra random town roll, you have the possibility of either there being a duplicate roll or an additional roll in the game that's not always present. So that's definitely very interesting and definitely adds for a lot of game variability, so that not every game is the same, but there's still enough of every other roll that we know exactly what to expect, which definitely, I think adds a more strategic element, and that's why I prefer Classic. But I definitely like to check out the other games because, that relies a lot more on your individual knowledge of rolls and what's possible and how to determine if, someone's lying. So, I mean, definitely I'd like to check that out just as soon as I get more familiar with this.
Yeah, it takes a lot of thought processes, especially during ranked, because there's a lot of roles that really change up other roles. For instance, there's the transporter. Not only do they transport different players, but they Lily and I just learned out earlier. We just learned recently that it changes the investigator. So when the investigator is investigating someone, you get one of three roles as what they have. When you transport them, it mixes that up. And so we were totally thought someone was evil when they weren't. And so it's very similar to Framer, which Framer allows you to completely, that more changes the sheriff though. But that one changes them to be suspicious versus not suspicious.
Yeah, definitely. That can throw off that role. And that's the only reason why a sheriff role is not necessarily reliable.
It's also not reliable due to the fact that Godfather has the ability to show up as not suspicious.
Right.
And so that's why you want to put in your will which is a total another aspect which we need to get into, the will writing, which basically when you do die, you have a will that you can write every night and you can show your activity. It's more useful for town roles, because town is trying to help each other out. And so when they die, their will can be seen. On that, you're going to put things like what you did every single night, is important information for them to know, who you visited that night, so you know if you're an escort and you visited a serial killer and the serial killer killed them, that's probably the serial killer, due to the fact that role blocking doesn't work on a serial killer.
Yeah, no, that definitely makes it more interesting. And when people update their wills, the game is at its best. Now, the wills also, kind of exist as a verification system for your role. People will often ask, it's standard procedure when someone claims a role to ask for their will to prove it.
Right.
Which does help because in some cases somebody can say, hey, I was role blocked that night. So you're telling the truth about your role. Possibly.
Even if you're not telling the truth, it's a really good thing to have. And a lot of Mafia do it, and smart serial killers.
Prepare a fake will
in advance. Right. But having a will ready is good because it allows you to put something out and it shows that you put effort into something. And if you're really the role, that's the only time you're going to want to put that effort into it. The chances of it being a smart mafia are a lot lower. I guess most people believe.
Right.
And I don't know. It just is more believable to see a real will.
Yeah. And you can definitely use that to your advantage because even if you're mafia, the lookout can tell whether or not you visited somebody.
Yeah.
So you can just say, well, I'm investigator. I was investigating them.
And if no one claims that role, then you're lucky. You're good. Or you could be random town.
You could claim that you're the random town. Which even if you are the random town, you won't know that you are necessarily, but you'll know if you're a role that doesn't always show up there, or you'll know if you're a duplicate.
Right. You won't know automatically if you're a duplicate until someone else claims that role. And so it's really interesting because you'll be, say you're an investigator, and there's another investigator who's claiming that you're like, dude, I'm an investigator. What? So you don't know that. And the other person's thinking the same thing. Wait, you're an investigator? I am. So you don't know. Neither of you do. So that's another throw you off aspect again.
Yeah. I wonder if in ranked, if you can still have duplicate roles since they're all randomized.
Yes, they are. There was 4 transporters in the last game we played. I think
Seriously?
3. I think there were 3, yeah.
That's ridiculous. Wow, that would be really difficult.
It is. That's what makes it so hard.
Yeah, and transporters can affect your ability to enact your role. So, for instance, if you're a vigilante, which has the ability to potentially kill innocent people, and you think that you're very surely killing someone who's evil,
someone transports their body to another person's body, and therefore allowing them to do their role onto that person, whatever their ability is.
Yeah, definitely.
Assuming they have a night ability. Jailer, for instance, is a day ability, actually, which there's very few of those. Amnesiac is another one, but there's a few day abilities which allow you to do something during the day, which will affect what happens at night.
Right.
A new faction stands against the town of Salem. The Coven. 5 new witch rolls. 4 new town rolls. 2 new mafia rolls. 4 new neutral rolls. Brand new game modes. And exclusive queues. Can you survive? Town of Salem. The Coven.
But yeah, overall, I mean, Town of Salem is a very thoughtful game. It really appeals to me because there's definitely a very, very complicated element to it. Definitely has that, whodunit mystery vibe. And at the same time, connects with, that Crucible setting and the mass hysteria. So definitely, I definitely feel like the setting was applicable, and the game to me is extremely fun, and it just a cherry on top that it's free to play.
Yeah, it is. I think the mobile costs $5, right?
Does it?
I think so.
I don't remember. I bought that. I got the app like a long time ago.
It was a long. Well, yeah. When it was first released, it was free. I think there is something you had to pay. I think Lillian had to pay, so I'm not sure.
Yeah. It may have been. So I'm saying that it's free right now, but I think that there may actually be a pay element to it.
But if anything, it's like $5. I think that's what it was.
But since we're legacy players, we never ended up having to pay anything.
Right.
But yeah, go check it out. Worst case, you'll pay $5, and I think you'll enjoy it. I definitely don't think you'll be disappointed. What are your final thoughts on this game, Dakota?
I spent a lot of time and effort into this game throughout many years, and so I've learned a lot of strategies and a lot of stuff, and so it's really interesting to come back onto it and have a podcast about it after all this time of playing it, because I have so many strategies and things I can think of, and this brings back so many memories of times when I would play it. In fact, I have played Mafia before, like the actual game you play in a room with the lights off and the cards and stuff.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun. You have to do it with like a party with a group of people, and it's a lot of fun. You can do it. But really, this game brings that to life, and it's a digital mafia. It's great. BlankMediaGames did a really good job, and I would definitely recommend this to other people.
Yeah.
Are we going to give this one a rating like we do our indie movies?
Yeah. Go ahead.
What do you think? What do you think, Ash? I'll let you go.
Oh, me? Honestly, for me, this is a 5 out of 5. I definitely don't think this game could be better for what it's intending to do, and it's infinitely fun, infinite replay value. And I don't always, give a perfect rating to video games, but this one I think deserves it.
Well said. I might have to agree with you. At least a 4.5, if not a 5.
Right.
This is. I don't see a flaw. I don't have a reason to negate anything.
If there are any flaws, it's only that you could have bad players.
Right. That is the issue, and you have to deal with that a lot. I think that is a major complaint that you hear, is a lot of game throwers, as they're called, or hoppers or whatever,
I really think that's all that needs to be said about Town of Salem for now. I think, the rest, go try this game out. 5 out of 5 for $5. That's a good deal. As for what's coming up next, we're going to be doing our Death Stranding episode. Dakota's really excited about that one. I do believe he's going to be taking the lead, and he's written us notes.
Yeah. It's really funny. We just got this game. I got it the day it came out because I had already pre-ordered it as a digital deluxe, and I've been playing it since. I already beat the main story mode. I already put 66 plus hours into it, and that was a couple days ago. So we're getting somewhere.
Yeah.
A lot of information learned, a lot of lore to talk about. So it'll be a good episode.
Yeah, now it's the other way around. Now I'm lagging behind. You've beat the whole game, and how it normally is. And
Right.
I'm still not. I don't think I'll beat the game, but I'll definitely play as much as I can to get a grasp for it and be able to talk about it. Because I'm having a blast with it too, and we'll definitely want to go into that more next episode because there's just a lot to unpack with that. Other than that, enjoy the rest of Collateral Gaming Season 2. We've got some things coming up. We've got a Christmas episode coming up, another indie game review. We won't announce it yet, but we'll let you know that that's currently on the books. Also, our Death Stranding episode is set to coincide with our anniversary. So I'm still trying to figure out the scheduling on that. So it'll be sometime within December, early December. I'm not exactly sure if we'll be able to release it on the day of our anniversary because our schedule's off a little bit. If not, we'll release something to coincide with that. Expect by December 7th, I'll have some kind of content. And then we'll have around that time either that it will be Death Stranding or I'd really like to give myself another week and let Death Stranding be its own episode. So,
so you can play it more.
Exactly. No, exactly. That's my thoughts. So, Collateral Gaming can be found on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, YouTube, Google Play, Stitcher, and on Show Lover Radio.
Anywhere you get your podcasts.
Anywhere you get your podcasts. You can also find us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Bo, you're here. You haven't spoken a lot this podcast, but you're here. You want to talk a little bit about, very briefly about what's going on with Collateral Cinema?
Yes, we are still working on our First Glance Film Festival mega review. Part 2 of that is going to have some feature-length documentaries and movies as well. And we're also going to be doing our Christmas episode very soon. We're going to be doing The Grinch, Jim Carrey's performance.
Oh, I'm so ready for that.
Yeah, the Ron Howard movie. And I guess we can pretty much confirm that we're going to have a special guest on that show. It's going to be one of the people from Victims and Villains podcast, which we're really, really excited about. We can't wait to have them on the show, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So,
wow, yeah, I'm excited about that too. This is the first I'm hearing of it, so good to know.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be a lot of fun. We can't wait. And yeah, and then after the first of the year, I think we might do Fifth Element.
Oh, I'm so ready for
that. And I'm thinking about having my brother come in and be a special guest on that episode. So.
Oh, yeah, and I'm definitely going to want to be leading on that one because that was the one I suggested.
Oh,
hey,
yeah, definitely.
That is a tie-in to Die Hard because of Bruce Willis. That'll be
good
Instagram post.
There we go. Exactly. So, yeah, that's what's coming up with Collateral Cinema. And you can find us on the Apple Podcast, on Google Play, and wherever else you get your podcast. And Chill Lover Radio as well.
Hell yeah. Well said, Bo. Well, that being said, I'm Ashley Chancellor.
I'm Dakota Chancellor.
This is Collateral Gaming, and we are out.
Out.
Collateral Gaming is an L Company production. All music and game clips are owned by their respective creators, are used for educational purposes only, and are fair use. Please don't sue us. We're poor.
Boy,